It's the 18th of the 6th, 2022, and this upload is my second upload since earlier this morning. And this upload relates to the issue of identity. And we all have our own personal, unique identity. We all have our own birthright, our own blueprint. We all have our own purpose. We're all very individualistic and we're all very unique. And this upload is with regard to the issue of identity being imposed upon by individuals that are really less than scrupulous in their practices and their professions. So this upload really regards all the matters that I've been contending with, the individuals that have been imposing upon my professional identity, my familial identity, my personal identity, my identity as a mother, my identity as a property owner, my identity as a wife, my identity as, a teacher since 2006. And it's 2022 and I'm still in the circumstances of these people still not respecting the reality and still not understanding where they've overstepped the line and where they're not respecting boundaries, personal space, personal boundaries with regard to not just identity, but relations and circumstances. So there might be some people that might find this amusing, but it's actually quite serious. It highlights deficiencies in society. It highlights very serious defective behaviour that isn't tolerated by elitists or professionals of high standard. There's bog standard that you'd find in the gutter that I'm tolerating because of people insisting on being really, really rude to my identity. Now, they've overlooked the fact that I have a lovely royal bloodline, and that's quite old. It's a little bit older than the past 5 years. It's a little bit older since 2006, and it's centuries old, and it's a lovely rare bloodline. So there's that aspect to it, and that's a part of my identity. Our DNA. You can't belittle anyone's DNA. And there have been people in this community that have been up to the lowest of standards and practices in their faith that I have tried to reform in this community since 2018. And there has been no reform. There has been continuous blasphemy. And they have misused my blood. My blood has been used for purposes I have not consented to. That's very dangerous. And they have used it in their charlatan practices that jeopardize people's faith and families. Now, after 2018, when I uncovered what I uncovered, there was awful fraud going on, and it's still happening. The cycle is still going on, still in motion. There's still the obstacles, the obstructions, the repeat incidents of fraud, and the issue of the humanitarian protection that I have being disrespected. I'm of legislation. There have been the companies of privatization that have, in only the past 2-3 years, been of exploitation with regard to this person. And that brings me to back to the point about identity and how there have been individuals not only intruding upon my personal space, but have been of creative and intellectual theft as well. And they don't seem to understand that there's a repercussion for other people to be financially gaining from my work. Now, I represent fellowship, I'm sanity and sobriety, I represent anonymity, I respect people's privacy, I don't barge into people's lives and homes. I'm a recovery advocate, so that's another aspect of my humanitarian protection that's also been overlooked by people that aren't able to read or follow the law and that aren't able to work with the law, and that's a problem. That's a problem. So there's the issue anyway of these people in this community for the past 20 years using identity abuse and theft in their offences and demeanours against the state. Now, I hope the United Nations is aware of how dangerous this situation is, and I hope the United Nations knows as a property owner, as a married mom, as a woman of a clean track record, as a teacher. I hope the United Nations doesn't seem to think it's easy to demean or belittle any endeavours or accomplishments or achievements in my repertoire and portfolio of property and work. I'm aware that there have been representatives that are bringing themselves to the table as humanitarians that have negotiated with the individuals that have been causing offence. I'm fully aware that there have been humanitarians working with the repeat offenders against the state, and they have supported the repeat offenders against the state, which is of the European Union, the last time I checked. They have worked, these supposed humanitarians have worked with the individuals that are responsible for violence against women and children's rights. And they have sat with these people and have spared them and saved them from what their debts have accumulated to over the past 20 years that they still owe me for. And that are also hoping to trot onto my property. Now, I said earlier this morning, with what my child and I have tolerated in this community, it's just simply not safe for individuals to be presumptuous and cheeky enough to think that my farms are a place that will be welcoming to any individuals that owe us debts. There have been enough lives already put at risk. And as a married mother, as a property owner of royal blood, it's quite serious that humanitarian protection is being disrespected and that humanitarians are misrepresenting themselves and not actually fulfilling their capacities properly. And they have been contacted since 2019. Now, the individuals that are of identity issues that are imposing upon my identity have associated their name to my work. And that's a problem for any private company to be supporting. Any individuals or collective company initiative in this country supporting any individual or group of people or any initiative that has associated itself with my work under another identity that is unsafe. Anyone will tell you why we have defamation laws. Anyone will tell you why we have corporation law. There are companies that have been operating in Ireland that are at risk due to disrespect to this person, a qualified property owner professional, and educator. It's really serious that people are going over the limits. So with regard to NPHET, with regard to wildlife, with regard to flora and fauna, regarding legislative developments in this community, people living off royalties that they don't have entitlement to, people discussing my wealth and fortune isn't very safe for those people. So I really hope everyone is aware, and I hope the United Nations is aware of how dangerous identity theft is and property theft and my child not from my care. So there, as I've mentioned, people in my proximity that are repeat offenders against my child who is unlawfully from my care. Now there's the issue of proximity. It's all about the P's, the 3 P's, the 4 P's. The privacy is being violated in 18 Rock Street. We've had the experience of computational programming affecting my environment, my living space, by individuals of information fraud, information theft, disinformation. The HSC knows all about it. There's the privacy issue, the proximity issue, repeat offenders, 2017, people that are associated with the abduction of my child in January 2017 in my proximity. That's a problem. And the privacy, proximity, and there's more P's out there that are a problem for the government to start addressing, besides sitting on their hands and letting the problem spiral out of control. We're all very unique. I have a very special purpose that people are living off and disrespecting. So I hope they're able to understand when they're attaining information and when they're publicising people's privacy and when they're using other people's identity, names associated to my identity that are of my creative and intellectual work and of my royal bloodline. I really hope everyone's aware of how sinister the situation is. Nature is very delicate, and as an avatar, I hope the government has more sense than to sit on its hands any longer.